time with T
and S.
Hey guys, welcome back. In today's chapter 8, we will be discussing infertility. And as you can see, I have my first guest star, my husband Sean. Welcome, Sean, to Tea Time with T. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
I just want to kind of give you guys a heads up. There is no tea in our cups. I am drinking a rosé. And what are you drinking, hon?
I have a watermelon champagne.
So, cheers.
Cheers.
Yummy. So, fun fact about us cheers. Since we first started dating, we've done where we have to give each other eye contact. So anytime we cheers with anyone that we're with, we have to make sure that we give each other eye contact, just to ensure good luck. So that's why when we cheers, we gave each other eye contact. So cheers. All right. So like I stated in today's chapter 8, we will be talking about infertility. I do want to put a disclaimer out that if you are sensitive about hearing about, obviously, sex and babies and trying to conceive a baby, then this chapter might not be for you, because we are going to try to be as open and honest as we can in this chapter. Because this is something that people don't usually talk about, and we both wish that, you know, someone had talked to us about it beforehand. Maybe we would have been a little bit more educated on it. Do you have anything to kind of chime in real quick before we get started?
No, just that be prepared. It is a very trying time for us, everything that we're going to be going through and talking about. So anyone that has gone through it, we feel your pain, and yeah.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to kind of give you guys my backstory as to how all of this kind of came about. So I had always told myself that I was not going to have a baby until I got married, right? I had this big old plan that, you know, you get married, you get your house, and then you have your child. Like, that is what I've been believing in since I was in high school. And obviously we got married 5 years ago. Unfortunately, we never got a house because we live in Orange County and it's too expensive. But next thing was to have a child. I was always terrified of having a baby. Like, I mean, I never envisioned myself having a kid. I was scared. I would have anxiety over it. Like, literally, it would make me sick to my stomach and I would, like, cry. So it took years, I think, of us talking it through and trying to, like, okay, are we ready? Am I ready to make this commitment? And that's one of the hardest things about all of this, that it literally took me so long to, like, get comfortable with it. And so we got married in 2015, and right after our wedding, or it might have even been like right before the wedding, I got off, I got off birth control. And I had been on birth control, I think, for about 3 years or so. And I got off birth control. I had so many coworkers and friends saying, you know, oh, I had one coworker, she was like, oh yeah, as soon as I got off birth control, like, we got pregnant right away. And I was like, oh, that's cool, like, great for you. And she's giving me her little tips and tricks and everything that worked for her. And she was like, oh, hopefully it works for you. And I was like, okay, cool, that's great. One thing that was really difficult for both of us is everyone kept asking us, when are you having children? When are you having children? When are you having children? I mean, like, even before we even got married, we were just dating. I feel like people wanted us to, like, have a kid before even getting married. And mind you, this was most of the time family. There was coworkers, friends, everyone would ask, when are you guys having children? And so, of course, you know, after we got married, I'm finally ready. Okay, let's do it. Let's start trying to have a child. And then that's kind of when the story begins. So I had a pap smear, and I remember my doctor, like, asking about birth control, and I was like, oh, I'm not on birth control anymore. And she was like, wait, what? Why aren't you on birth control? Oh my God, you should be on birth control. Like, are you using condoms? Are you using anything? And I was like, no, like my husband and I are trying to have a kid. And she was like, oh, well, why didn't you say anything? Like, have you seen like an OBGYN? And I was like, no. She was like, how long have you been trying? And I think at this point it had been like 2 years, maybe a year, 2 years. I don't really remember.
Yeah, around there.
And so we finally set up an appointment with an OBGYN, and she kind of just went through questions, asked us questions about everything, and him and I were together, and the doctor checked me out, which I was not ready for, and that was a huge thing on my part, because I was like, whoa, like I'm not ready for some doctor to come look at me, but that's what happened. And then she gave us some options. So one of the options was to see an infertility acupuncturist. Another option was...
No, we're jumping ahead.
Oh, what happened?
Yeah, we're jumping ahead. Because you got tested, or you got your pap smear, then you got the OBGYN, and they checked you out, and your ovaries were good, everything looked good from what she had seen, and then they had to test me. So I had to go, and I believe it was a couple days later, I had to go down to Kaiser, had to pick up a cup. I could not have used any type of lube, saliva, anything. I had to masturbate into a cup, and I had 15 minutes from the time that I got my semen into the cup to actually get it back to Kaiser so that they could test it and the results would be as accurate as possible. They warned us that you had 15 minutes. If it was less than 15 minutes or more than 15 minutes to get there, your test results were going to come back inconclusive. You weren't going to have the information that you needed. I also had to keep it at body temperature. So when they explained everything to me, I either had to put it in my armpit and hold it there, or I had to put it between my legs and hold it there while I was driving. And yeah, it was crazy because it literally took me minutes to get everything into the cup. Didn't look like much, so we jumped in the car, took off, got to Kaiser, made it in time. I jumped in line because at Kaiser you have to check in for everything, so I was thrown off because apparently I didn't have to check in for that. I could just walk right into the lab and drop it off. So that obviously took some time.
And mind you, no one said any of this on what to do. Like, we were literally like beginners. And I'm gonna stop right here. I do apologize. Rainbow is crying, so if you hear a little whimper in the background, it's because Rainbow is crying in the bedroom and she wants to see her mommy and daddy. But she's fine, but I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that. Okay, we may go back to our scheduled program.
So get everything turned in, made it in time. The nurse that checked everything out was like, you're good, like put my label on it from my Kaiser ID and everything, and dropped it off. I think we went to go get food and went back to the apartment, and this was all probably happening at like 12, 1 o'clock. We dropped it off. By 4 or 5 o'clock, I had received a phone call from Kaiser saying that I was sterile and that I basically would not be able to have a kid the traditional natural way. So they obviously talked about other options that are available, but because it was just a nurse, they just wanted to give us the heads up that it did come back sterile. We would have to talk with our OBGYN and plan on our next steps from there. Obviously, this was a huge hit to me, especially, being a male, finding out that you can't have a kid. I lost it. I just started crying right then and there. I went through about a year of depression. I went and saw my doctor and had to meet with a therapist. Went through therapy. They put me on, I believe it was Prozac. Not to mention I had a thyroid issue, so I was on thyroid medication as well. And it definitely took a toll on our marriage. It put a damper in what our plans were and what we thought was the perfect route for any married couple, as you said, with marriage, house, and then a kid. And this was just a huge curveball thrown at us that we weren't prepared for and we weren't ready for. I don't think anyone will ever be ready for it.
And once again, people were still asking us every day. I remember when I asked you and I was like, do people ask you at work, like when you guys are having children, and you said no? And at that point, I was seriously being asked every single day. And I'm not even being over dramatic. I know I'm usually really dramatic, but like I promise you guys, someone asked me every single day, oh, when are your husband having kids? Oh my God, you guys would have the cutest kids, or whatever the case may be. And family would ask us all the time, when are you guys having kids already? When are you guys having kids? We're like,
well, aside from the family part, like, of course our family is going to ask us. Like, we know that, we get that. It's tough, especially when I hadn't told anyone in my family at the time that I was obviously sterile and couldn't have a kid. I don't believe you had told anyone in your family yet. It was one of those things where we didn't know what options, what steps, where we were going to go from here. Are we even going to tell anyone, or are we just going to own it ourselves? But I think the stigma around it usually is the female that's asked, when are you having kids? At work, I hardly ever got asked it, if I got asked at all. And it wasn't something that I was looking for, trying to see if someone would ask me at any point. But to hear how many times you were getting asked was the crazy thing, that no one was asking me, especially after we had just got married. Like, that is obviously the question that you hear the most. When we were together out places and seeing friends and family, it was all the time. But being separate at work, out with people on our own, I never got asked it.
yeah. So let's go back to my OBGYN giving the options. You can see fertility acupuncturist. You can get this test done, which I was supposed to research it to remember so I can give you guys that name, but I don't recall what it is. She tried to give us as many options as possible. So him and I, we talked about it, and we discussed acupuncture, because I had acupuncture on both my shoulders, my neck, my back, my elbows, my wrists, my whole upper body. I've had acupuncture for, and that was one thing that I actually saw a significant change in my body. And so she gave us a few names. We looked on Yelp. We found an acupuncturist, and he had a crazy amount of reviews and stars and success rates on, people getting pregnant and having babies. And we knew it was super expensive, but we're like, okay, is this something we want? Like, is this something we want to invest in? Obviously, it's an investment. Then let's go for it. So we did. I ended up paying about $800, $900 on, I think we said like 3 or 4 sessions. The first session was very interesting. We walked in there, and it was him and I, and he kind of right off the bat knew what was wrong. He knew right off the bat. He kind of asked me like, oh, do your feet get cold? And I was like, yeah, like my feet are always cold, like literally always cold. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I think you're cold-blooded. And I was like, oh, okay. And so like, this was even before he had me take my shoes off, anything. He had me take my shoes off. He felt my feet. I had boots on and socks on, and my feet were still freezing. And he was like, okay, yeah, you're definitely cold-blooded. And then he knew right off the bat too that he was warm-blooded. So I thought that was super interesting, like how he was able to pinpoint that so quickly. But the first sessions the sessions that we went to were about me. And so I got all the acupuncture, and it was all in my stomach area. He gave me a piece of paper, gave me the instructions on what to do. I had to take my temperature every single morning, every morning. And then I'd have to write down if I was ovulating. I'd have to buy an ovulation test to make sure I was ovulating. He pretty much gave us the do's and don'ts. Like I couldn't have, because of being cold-blooded, I had to have warm water and not room temperature. Like he wanted my water hot. Not the normal temperature. No, he wanted my water hot. I couldn't have anything ice. I couldn't have ice cream, anything cold. I couldn't have any of that. Everything had to be warm. And then with you, he wanted you to cool everything off.
Yeah,
so you got the seat stuff.
I had to buy, they were like beads that laid over the car seat. So it was basically to allow more airflow through where I was sitting, so that my body could cool down, because I'm very hot. Anywhere we go, I'm usually short sleeve, shorts. I'm always running hot. That's just me. And like you said, you always are running cold. The lukewarm water, I was supposed to have everything cold because we wanted to lower my body temperature.
I remember no jacuzzis, no spas, not even hot showers. He couldn't take any hot showers. Literally everything. It was so day and night, like completely opposite. Here's me who I couldn't do anything cold. Everything had to be warm that was in my body. I remember he said he wanted me to wear 2 layers of socks to go to work every day, even at home. I mean, like literally I had to keep my feet warm. And it was so crazy because my feet still sweat even though they're hella cold. So I was like, what? Like I can't even fit double socks in a shoe. Like how does he expect me to do this? I remember calling my mom and being stressed the fuck out after the first session. Like just not understanding it, not knowing what were we doing? Why do we have to do this? I called her and I was like, Mom, like it wants me to check this, and I need to do my temperature. I need to write things down. I don't understand what this means. And I remember my mom, like she was like, excuse me, I just belched. But she's like, Mija, like I'm sorry, like I don't know any of this. You know, she's like, I conceived all 3 of you the old-fashioned way by just having sex. And she couldn't help. And I remember I Googled everything, and there was one coworker that I worked with who had gone through all this, so she was kind of my point person that I would go to. But even then, I felt so stupid. I felt ignorant. I felt like an idiot because I didn't understand any of this. All, you know, you get taught is, you know, you have sex, you get pregnant, bam, wham, thank you, ma'am, boom. But it was nothing like this. At this point, he had told us, you know, we had to have sex a certain part of the day. We have to have sex, obviously, when I'm ovulating. So it had to be all timed out. We have to have sex after we were done having sex. I'd have to put like, what, 2 or 3 towels under my hip, and I'd have to lay there in my bed with his semen for 2 hours.
And that's what the doctor recommended, was the 2 hours. Obviously, he wanted us to do longer if we could, but he said that was the only way that it was actually going to get her pregnant, was if the semen stayed there and was elevated and lifted up so that it wouldn't come out. We wanted it to stay in so it had a fighting chance of actually swimming to the egg.
And mind you, during all of this that we're going through, my nephew lived with us. So how can we plan having sex with my nephew literally living in the living room? I had just started my new position at Disney, so I'm already stressed. I already shared with you guys that whole drama that I went through. So I'm going through that stress, and now this stress. And while everyone is still asking, when are you guys having a kid? So.
And we have Betsy at the time. We didn't have Rainbow.
We had Betsy. So how are we going to get her out with my nephew knowing? Like, it was just.
And then how are you supposed to lay in bed? We have a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. Like, you got to lay in bed with your hips up, towels underneath you, and we have a little girl running around who's going to try and get on the bed and want to know what's going on, and a nephew who's hanging out here obviously is going to have to use the restroom once in a while. And I mean, you touched on the stress factor, because we hear that all the time too, that it'll happen when you guys aren't planning on it. You're too stressed out right now. When things calm down, you know, you're not stressed.
People, if you are one of these people and you're guilty of it, you need to stop doing that. People need to stop asking, when are you guys having kids? I'm sorry, family, you guys are the same. Stop fucking asking. Just stop asking. I don't care. Just because you're family, you think you have a privilege, you're entitled? No. Family needs to stop asking when you're having kids. Friends, co-workers, it's none of your fucking business. And on top of that, do not tell someone, oh, it's because you're so stressed out. Oh, it'll happen when you least expect it. Fuck you guys. Like, you don't understand the stress and the pressure. Like you were saying, life is stressful.
Yeah.
How dare you tell me it's because you're too stressed out? Or you know what else I heard a lot? It's because I was overweight. Yeah. Like even my doctor's like, oh, it's probably because you're overweight is why you can have a kid. I mean, why would you tell someone that? I even said there's plenty of women out there in the world conceiving babies who are larger than I am, thicker than I am, and healthier than I am. And you're gonna tell me that? What a way to fuck with my self-esteem. So we're dealing with all this, right? So all of this is going through. He's dealing with his insecurities of not being able to get me pregnant. I'm dealing with not understanding any of this, dealing with people telling me that it's because I'm overweight, people asking me every day, when are you guys having a kid, and not understanding the situation. And that's the thing, and I get it, it comes from a good place. The people who are asking, it comes from, their intentions are good, they don't mean any harm, they're not meaning to offend us or offend me. But in the day, they don't understand what we're going through. You don't understand what people are going through, so why do you feel the need to ask that question or to bring it up? I'm sorry, I know I got super passionate about it, but it's something that needs to stop. Okay, so where do we leave off on? Okay, so acupuncture. So I got these acupuncture appointments. I think my second one, it hurt so bad. I mean, like crying, where he had to pull the needle out because it just hurt my stomach extremely bad. And then by the third appointment, I remember he asked me, he was like, are you taking this seriously? Because I didn't fill out the paperwork properly because I didn't understand it still. Like, call me ignorant, but I didn't understand what I needed to do. And you guys don't understand, like, it was this serious to where I remember I would have to set my alarm because I had to take my temperature at the same time every single morning. So I would set my alarm, I think it was like 7 a.m. and I wouldn't even be able to move. Like, I couldn't even get up and reach for the thermometer. I literally would have to lay there, open my eyes, and just reach for it and grab it, stick it in my mouth, not move anything, and wait till that was done. Once I got the temperature, then I'd have to go to the side of my bed, get my piece of paper out and my little pen, and write down what my temperature was. And this was every single day. Like, who can live their lives like that? And when he told me that he doesn't think I take this seriously, and when he was upset with me that I couldn't fill out the papers right, and I lost it. I think I finished out that session and we never turned back. Mind you, once again, I dropped $800, $900 on 3 sessions with this man.
And the tough part, like for me being in there obviously with her when she's getting the acupuncture and going through all of this, I think it was the second time, like you said, some of them hurt and he would pull them out and do a different one or move it a little bit to a different spot. The third time when he asked her, like, are you taking this serious and everything, he was putting the acupuncture needles in and she would literally jump off the bed. He wasn't taking them out anymore. He was just leaving them and letting her suffer in the pain. And that was the thing that really put us over the edge of, you know what, we don't need to deal with this shit. Like, all this for a kid, like, it's not worth it at the end of the day.
Because you can tell he was annoyed with me. You can tell he thought I was a child or adolescent or whatever you wanted to say. Like, I felt it. I felt it in my heart that this man didn't respect me as a client. And at this point, I lost all respect from him as a doctor. So after we left, once again, I called my mom crying, hysterical. I'm telling her, I can't do it. I can't do it. This isn't for me. I can't do this. And I remember my mom saying like, oh, you must not want a child. You don't want a child bad enough. And I was like, you don't know what I'm going through. Like, how dare you say that? So then after this, I had to do this test thing that I don't remember what it's called. And I'm once again ignorant, not knowing what the hell it is. I called to make this appointment. I requested a female because I only have females going down there to check on me. And I go to this doctor's appointment, and I remember they have me, put the gown on, and then the nurse comes and talks to me, and she's like, I just want to let you know, like, this does hurt. Like, you will be hurting and you will be sore, and so when you're done with this appointment, like, you're gonna probably have to go home, take some ibuprofen, sleep it off. Like, it's gonna be painful. She's like, some women, they don't feel the pain is as severe, but to other women, like, it is painful. Here's me who can't handle pain worth shit, and I'm sitting there like, oh my god, what the fuck is gonna happen to me? Like, I don't understand. And as she's talking to me, she kept saying, oh, and your doctor, and he will do this and he will do that. So when she's done talking me through it, I'm like, wait, did you say he? Like, is this gonna be a male doctor? And she's like, well, yeah, it's doctor, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, like, I requested a female. Like, I do not want a man touching me, looking at me. And she was like, oh, well, I don't think we can find you a female, like, doctor right now. Like, you might have to reschedule. And I was like, okay, like, at this point I'm like crying. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not gonna see this doctor. We walked out and I told you, I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. And I remember when I researched what this whole procedure was, I was like, no. And I remember crying hysterical to you, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't put my mental health, my body, my everything through this for a baby.
Well, all this wasn't even going to guarantee that we were having a baby. This was just to find out if we could potentially have a baby.
Yeah, because all that test was going to do was check out my ovaries to make sure my ovaries were fine. That they wouldn't have been able to move further on our process unless they knew.
The tubes.
Yeah, my tubes.
The tubes, yeah.
Yeah, to make sure that my tubes were fine, that I was going to be able to like carry a baby and blah, 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 whatever that stuff is. And after that appointment, when we sat and we talked, and I remember saying, like, I remember crying to you and being like, I feel like I'm letting you down. Like, I feel like I'm not going to be able to move forward with this. I'm not going to be able to move forward in trying to have a kid. Like, this isn't the right step for me anymore. And I think that was really hard. I mean, mind you, at this point, I'm going through a really bad depression. I remember hating everything and everyone. I remember thinking, like, resenting people. I mean, there's people who have kids who don't want children. There's people who have kids who hate children. There's people who have kids who are horrible parents, who give up their children, who barely have sex for the first fucking time and get pregnant. I had a girl in high school who had 3 abortions. 3 at the age of 17. And now that broad has 6 children. And I am hurting and I'm resenting everything at this time in our lives. And I remember just crying all the time, like, this isn't fair, this is fucking bullshit. We would be amazing parents. Like, look at how we are with Betsy. Like, we would be so good. We would be great parents. We would love them. Yep. And I remember people being like, oh, what about adoption? And at that point, I was like, I don't want to adopt. Like, I want him and I to have a child. I want him and I to raise this child from our genes. I want our genes to be in this baby. I want this to be our miracle baby. You know, like, it was more to me than just having a child. It wasn't just having a baby. It was having a baby from him, a baby that him and I could make.
Our characteristics, our traits, personalities, all of that into, I mean, nothing against adopting, because we obviously have contemplated, and at this point we haven't decided on anything. We've never gone much further with adoption and looking into it. We've just talked about it here and there, but we wanted the experience of having a kid that came from us, that was going to share in what we bring to the table.
So having to tell, like, our friends and our close family, like, hey, this is something that's been going on, was tough. Like I said, both of us went through a really hard depression on it. It was hard to accept. It was hard to face. But now that, I mean, this was like, what, 3 years ago that all of this kind of happened and went down?
So yeah, about 3 years ago, all of this went down. It affected our marriage, like we said, affected our sex life. As you can imagine, finding out that I can't have a kid put a damper on me feeling less of a man, if you will. I struggled with erectile dysfunction. I went to the doctor to find out what was going on. The doctor that I saw at the time let me know that it was probably just an anxiety thing. It was something in my head. I was too young to be going through something like that. That always seems to be an excuse that is given, is you're too young to be going through this. Everyone experiences things at different times in their life, and that's what makes life so great, is that we all experience on a different path. But one of the crazy things that happened was the doctor gave us some pills, things started to kind of get back to normal with us. We kind of started living life for life and enjoying each other. But eventually the pills ran out. The doctor didn't want to keep prescribing it. And everything started working as it should again. Great, cool, wonderful. And back to the thyroid that I had a thyroid issue where my thyroid wasn't producing enough. And obviously that keeps all the hormones in check on your body. And my primary doctor wanted to do a test and run the test and see what was going on and follow up. Wanted to take me off the thyroid medication. Thought that it was such a low dose, it wasn't really doing anything for me. So we did that. And he asked about the Prozac, the depression, because obviously it was a different person that prescribed it. It wasn't my primary. And so we began talking about it and what happened and getting tested and low sperm count and the volume count and getting the phone call and everything. And my primary doctor was like, what are you talking about? Had no clue, no idea. He's like, your numbers look fine. He's like, I can see the test results right here. He's like, you don't have a low sperm count. He's like, the volume might have been a little low, but that doesn't affect whether or not someone can get pregnant. That the sperm count is what counts for that. Your volume isn't what counts. So I was flabbergasted. Obviously, I was super excited to find out, like, hey, like the opportunity might still be there. We might be able to have a kid. But the fact that I went a year, I think almost 2 years of thinking that I'm sterile, I can't have a kid, fuck, this is crazy. Never thought this would happen to me. To, oh, Kaiser messed up. Someone called me that shouldn't have called me, that didn't know how to read the test, giving me information that they shouldn't have given me. I mean, everything happens for a reason, but I still can't find a reason why that would have happened.
And the crazy thing is, like he said, everything happens for a reason. And yes, hearing that news, we're like, oh my God, thank God. But at this point, we already went through our depressions. We already went through the heartache. We went through the pain. And at this point, him and I had already accepted the fact, okay, like maybe this isn't for us. You know, we have Betsy, she is our daughter. And this is why, you know, I preach to people and say, don't you dare call her a dog. Don't you dare say this, because she's not. She's literally our daughter. And then when we adopted Rainbow, now, you know, our family is whole. Our family is complete. Our family is, you know, where we're supposed to be. I will be honest, we did stop trying. And I know people say, once again, you know, if you stop trying, if you stop being stressed, like it'll happen. Obviously, it's been 5 years, it hasn't happened, but we don't expect it to happen anymore. Like there's been times where my period is very irregular and I'm like, oh my God, do you think I'm pregnant? And I've had people tell me that I think 3 people told us that they had dreams that we were gonna have twins. And that was fucking crazy, right? Here again, 5 years later, still no baby, still no twins, nothing. I'm not 100% out of adopting anymore. Like that still could be an option. But this time, we want to enjoy each other. We want to enjoy life. We want to enjoy our 2 girls. We want to enjoy our apartments, and we want to enjoy each other. And
well, I think what ties back to us enjoying life and enjoying each other, we went through 2-3 years where we were depressed. We were just going through the motions because we were literally lost because of what was said to us. Yes, it's our fault. We didn't dig deeper. We didn't try and get a second opinion but I trusted my doctor. I trusted our physicians that were taking care of us. Yeah, it might have been naive. It might have been our fault that we let it happen and we let it affect us so much. But at the end of the day, you don't know until you go through it.
So that's pretty much the gist of everything that we wanted to talk about infertility. Our time is coming up. Again, I keep going over these 30 minutes, so I do apologize. But kind of what I want everyone to take home with, which I've been preaching about already, is please make sure, do not ask someone if they're pregnant. Do not ask someone when they're going to get pregnant and when they're going to have children. Don't tell someone, oh, it'll happen when you least expect it. Oh, it'll happen when you stop stressing out. And just stop. If people are close enough to you, they will talk to you about it, right? They'll have these conversations with you. They'll explain it to you. But if not, then they're being private for a reason. And once again, family members, it does not give you a right to ask. Thank God I think no one's asked us in like 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
no one asked me at all. I mean, no one ever asked him, but like even when we're together, no one asks us anything anymore. I mean, we used to hear it. Oh my God, you guys would make the most beautiful children. And it's like, we know that. Like, not to say, but like, we know that. But thank God, once again, no one has said anything in 3 years, which has helped a lot. But yeah, well, thank you guys so much for going down this little rabbit hole with us about infertility. I know I want to thank you, Sean, for being so open with my viewers about what you went through, because I know that's tough and you have to be open and vulnerable and pretty much share everything you went through that I don't even think your family knows what you went through. So thank you for doing that, hun.
Of course.
And thank you to everyone who's watching this Tea Time with Tea Chapter 8 Infertility. If you have any questions about anything, please let me know. Yes, I'm still not very educated on it, but I am a little bit more than I was 5 years ago, or you know, whatever the time frame was. But I want to say thank you again, and I hope you liked our matching mugs, T and S. And now that I realize that we did it face forward, that probably yours is gonna be backwards. That's annoying, but mine is not. But yeah, thank you for Tea Time with Tea. Cheers.
Cheers.
Chapter 9 will be coming up sooner than later. Dang, hon, are you like chugging that champagne?
No, there's not much in there, so I had to tilt all the way back. Just want to make sure everyone saw the label at the bottom. I had to match yours.
Twinsies! But anyway, chapter 9, I'll have another guest speaker. Chapter 10, I'll have a guest speaker. If any of you have anything to talk about, I mean, literally anything, I'm hoping to get one of my good friends to talk about being a drag queen and drag makeup and being in pageants and stuff. I'm hoping, like, literally, if you have anything to talk about, please send me a DM and we'll get this started and the ball rolling. So thank you once again for watching Tea Time with
Tea.
Tea.